What's up, everybody? We're back on another episode from the gutter to greatness. And again, we always are trying to bring you a lot of greatness here on our show. But the brother's got a story, so we're going to hear about it today. And, today we're going to be talking about the velocity as momentum with a twist. Because this brother has put a nice twist on it, and he has definitely got some momentum. But he didn't start with momentum. He started somewhere else, and he's going to talk about it today. And so today we have Marlo Prelo, owner of Velocity, which is an educational institution. When I say that is he has some products, he has some courses, he has some other things that he's going to talk about, some books that he's going to talk about today. And I just can't wait to hear more from this brother. I'm going to let him kind of talk about it and tell us more. So if you could, we always want to know, tell us, obviously we know your name now, but tell us, what do you do currently and why should anybody care?
You know what? Hey, first of all, I appreciate you allowing me to be here, man. And that's a great question. What do you do and why should anybody care? We talk to students all the time about allowing people to put their arms around you, especially in the space that they're currently in, because this is the final frontier for a lot of our students before they graduate and before they walk across that stage. So we ask those guys, why should you care about where you are right now? Because this is it. So we are Velocity Education Group, and what we do is we help students prepare for life after high school, right? And there's a lot of reasons why folks should care. There's a lot of reasons why instructors should care, teachers, superintendents, students themselves, because we are getting the students ready for the final frontier, right? And we focus on early intervention and early awareness. So we want to go into these middle schools and high schools as early as we can and really plant the seeds of education. We want to plant some of the seeds of decision making. We want to plant some of the seeds about life skills in general, so that when these students graduate and when they walk across that stage, they know for a fact that they have a plan for themselves. They have a plan for their life after high school. They have an idea of what success looks like. Not anyone else's success, not mom's version of success for you, not your dad's version, not mama, not grandma, but your version of success for yourself. And that's what every school district, every parent should want for their students, right? They want them to graduate, move on to whatever level of success that is and whatever that looks like for the students individually. And that is exactly why, people should care about what we do. I'm trying to make sure that these guys don't walk across the stage and now they're all of a sudden making bad decisions. They're 18, they have idle time on their hands, they get a felony, they make a wrong move. Now all of a sudden the trajectory of their life has been changed forever because they graduated and they did not have a plan for their life.
But
So,
Marlo, wait, we're school. We got school counselors. Why do we need y'all?
oh yeah, that's a great question.
I don't need y'all. We got
That's right.
counselor.
That's
We got
right.
such and such
Yeah,
who
you
is
got
ready to save the
programming.
world.
Yeah, you got programs, you got superintendents, you got all kinds of people dedicated, walking the halls and in the schools, doing all these great things. But the problem is there's never enough resources, right? Because if we had enough resources right now, you would not open the paper and see kids still bringing guns to school. You wouldn't turn on the news and see all these fights and things going on. You wouldn't turn on the school and see high absenteeism rates, and things of that nature. Or you wouldn't turn on the tube, and see all the different things going on about all these different demographics of people being left behind in terms of going on to 2 years and 4 years. Other age groups and other demographics and races of people are moving forwards, whereas we're either falling behind, or moving backwards. So it takes a village, you know what I mean? It takes everybody. And if we had all the answers, then, we wouldn't be sitting here trying to come up with the answers, right? So it takes us all to get into the system and try to help pull these kids across the finish line.
So now, where did all this start at? So why did you start this organization? What was the purpose behind it? Um, can you give me a little background?
Yeah, it's this is one of those. This one was a labor of love, right? Velocity Education Group, just the company itself. I mean, when we started the company, I was teaching high school, and I was teaching CTE, right, which is a career and tech ed. So I was working with students who are learning management, marketing, and entrepreneurship, which I love. I love talking about those concepts. I love giving the young people that information. And, it was one of the greatest times of my life. I enjoyed being on the front line and working with students. And I just started asking the kids, what are you going to do when you graduate? Because I was working at the high school level at the time. And I would often ask the kids, I would want to know, what are you going to do when you graduate? And I asked all levels, ninth grade, 10, 11, 12. And I would often get the answer of, well, I don't really know, bro. You know what I'm saying? I got ways to go. Or I would get the proverbial, man, I ain't going to college, man. You know what I'm saying? I ain't going to college, bro. You know that ain't really my thing either. You know what I'm saying? And I said, well, no, I don't know what you're saying. First of all, I don't know what you're saying. And second of all, what if you don't do that, then what is your plan? Right? Let's talk through what does that look like? So, one year I had a fourth block group that was extremely challenging. It was extremely challenging. And I knew that in order to really get through to this group, I was going to need some different material. We were reading all the things that you read, in high school, and we had all the business books and the Stephen Coveys and, some other things that had been donated to the school, to kind of help with the tutelage and get students understanding business and life. And I said, man, these concepts right here may be too advanced. These guys need something different, right? And it wasn't that they couldn't, not that they weren't thinking at that higher level, but they needed to see something that was more reflective of themselves in the material so they could grasp it more and just have a better understanding. So, you hear all these terminologies about being able to see yourself reflective in the reading, and students should be able to gravitate toward things that resonate, with them in their home life. So as I started thinking about that, I was talking to my principal at the time, and I said, if I put together some material that I felt like was appropriate and I could use in the classroom, could I do that? And they welcomed it. I was in a great district. It was forward thinking. And they said, yeah, anything that you can think of that you feel like is going to move the needle and help these students, understand how to prepare themselves for life after high school, or whatever it is, whatever ideas you have. We weren't sure what direction we were going to go in at the time, but I just knew I needed to put something on paper that I felt like could reach my students, in particular. So I did just that. I went home and I started working on, my first book. And the name of that book was called I Ain't Going to College, right? A guide for after high school. And even when I think about it, now it always makes me pause a little bit, because when I went home that day and I sat down, I didn't go home to write a book. I sat down to put together something that was going to be engaging, something that was going to be educational, something that was going to be motivational. And the overall goal was, I want to bring forth some material that the kids are going to gravitate towards and resonate and read and say, man, if this person in this book was able to go forward and succeed and find some success, and he kind of looks like me, maybe a story is similar to mine, then maybe I can do it too, right? And that was all I wanted to do. I didn't know if I was going to do a fiction or a truth, a fiction or a nonfiction. And I ended up telling my own life story. And that actually was not, what I set out to do. I was going to tell a story about this guy trying to graduate from high school, but he gets into trouble. He goes through some ups and downs. He's got these humble beginnings,
Right.
what you're talking about here.
And that's where I definitely would like to understand that. So, because you didn't start off as Marlo Prelo, who runs a very successful company, who has been an educator. I'm sure you started from somewhere. So, where are your origins from? What state do you come from? What area do you come from?
Yeah, so I grew up in Sumter, South Carolina, right, which is a rural town right in the state of South Carolina, not too far from the capital, which is Columbia. And as we matriculated, and grew up in Sumter, then we went through a lot of different things because it's the '80s, right? And I tell people, if you didn't grow up in the '80s, the one thing about the '80s, crack cocaine, drugs, prostitution, man, those things were tearing through the Black community, not just in my neighborhood, but in neighborhoods, really all over the country. I
My
mean,
neighborhood too.
that's what it was.
Yeah, I'm from one of the poorest cities in the country, but crack hit us extremely hard, and we're like a drug hub for a lot of different areas. So it's been interesting to watch the city erode, especially after the industries moved out because they shifted and changed, and then the drugs hit extremely hard, and education is 646 out of 646 in New York State in the city. Highest murder rates per capita, usually lowest graduation rates for Black males at 9%. So this is the city that I'm from. So I definitely understand. So you're saying Sumter was hit hard by the crack epidemic, and how did that affect you and your family?
Yeah, Sumter was definitely hit hard, by the epidemic. Similar statistics, as to what you just said. You saw a lot of poverty, a lot of industry leaving, especially around that time. You had your cabinet companies and, your manufacturers and all those different things that were leaving, right around the time that the drugs and the poverty really started getting bad. So then what happens with that? People can't make money. Then, they just want to start trying to do other things in order to make money, which are usually illegal things. And all those things lead to even more crime, more truancy, kids out of school. So, the public parks and things like that, the places that you used to go to for fun and to find refuge, those became the drug hubs and, the real centers for a lot of the violence. And, you just couldn't move around as a young person and do the type of things that young people did. And, when you're living in an environment like that, where you're already on Section 8, the majority of the city, the schools are Title 1, kids are eating, 85, 90% eating free reduced lunch, coming to school, with the lunch ticket, having to get kerosene for heat and things like that. You're not necessarily going to go to school and strive to achieve, all of your best, especially in particular if you didn't eat last night. Like me and and a lot of my guys did. Or when you're in a household where you basically having to fend for yourself and you're going through these different situations, you're hitting the light switch, roaches and running everywhere, and the house is cold in the wintertime because there's no heat. It's hot in the summertime because there's no air conditioning. So, it's hard to get across the point when people hear those kinds of stories, and you have to try to get them to understand this is what people are dealing with. So you go to school, school it's a great outlet, and it's a great chance to get your education. But when your environment is not on a solid ground and it's not on a solid footing, then you got to go to school with a whole nother mentality. And
Right.
I think the folks who come out of that and are able to come out of that and go on and be successful, I mean, you talk about gutter to greatness, man, it's a big difference in somebody who tried to open their refrigerator and couldn't open it because it had a lock on it. You had to ask for permission to get something to eat. Then somebody who went home, went in the cabinet, got a snack, went to the pantry, then they went in the kitchen, hobnobbed around with mom and dad, while the food was being cooked and they ate good. They went home and went to sleep. That's what you want. But it's so many people that I can name were not in that type of situation. And
Right.
when you see them, you can see the frustration in their faces. You can see the anger, in their faces. And those are the guys that went to school. You lash out, you start getting in trouble,
So,
and before you know it, you start making bad decisions.
so was that, was that some things that you experienced directly, and what did that look like? Also, is Charlemagne the guy from Sumter, or no?
No, Charlemagne the God is from Monk's Corner, South
From
Carolina.
Monk's Corner. Okay, that's right. I knew he was from somewhere
Monk's Corner.
in there, and I have some relatives in South Carolina, and it's interesting. So I remember going down to King Street, right, and you come outside at nighttime and you get your own personal gnats that go with you. So they know your name and they come out. You come out the house and then it's flying around your head, and
Oh yeah.
and then you go back in and they go away and then they come back out again. Yeah, I don't know about all that.
Yeah,
But
they'll lift you up. They will lift you up to a
yeah,
higher height if you let them.
I stood in an ant pile, like a red ant pile, and went in
Oh,
the house, ran in, taking my clothes off,
oh yeah.
and screaming, and yeah, I leave that for you. I leave that for y'all, man. I stay in the concrete jungle.
Yeah,
Um,
they probably saw you coming a mile away. They probably couldn't wait to get you.
no, they knew I wasn't from there. They knew I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't built for it. I but was your life? Did you have to go through this? Did you have the refrigerator locked? Did you have what was it like personally? Like tell me your gut of the greatness story. Like where did it start for little Marlo?
Yeah,
And what did that look like? You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
walk us through
It's
it.
man, it's so wild because I was asking my grandmother one day, rest her soul. I said, "What was I like when I growing up when I was little?" And she said, "Man, you were so shy. You were incredibly shy because I spent a lot of split time. I grew up on Edward Street with my mom, but I would go to my grandmother's house for refuge. I would go there sometimes on the weekends, and I can remember one of the first times I got over to her house. She made me strip. She made me take off all of my clothes at the front door, and I came in, and she said, "Let me look at your arm." And I held my arm up, and I could literally just rub my arm and see the dirt that was on my arm that it came because I wasn't being held accountable even to take a bath, even to bathe or do some of the basic things that you're supposed to do to really groom yourself. And I came in, she gathered up all my clothes, man. She put them in the wash, and we sat down and we had a conversation just about basic hygiene and taking care of yourself. And we as she was talking and telling me, I became ashamed and embarrassed. And that's when I really started to think about what is going on with my life. Like why am I in this situation? So I started asking adults who I live with questions, why are we in this house where I don't have a bed? Why am I having to sleep on this ottoman that I gotta take another ottoman and push it together and wrap all the covers around it? Why can you not just get a job? Like I see other people do. So that we can have money and income and do some of the things that I know need to be done. So, from sleeping on the floor at times to sleeping on ottomans at times, sharing beds with people, being again in the house, no heat, no air. I mean, the winter time was just so cold in that house. I'll never forget. I would put my clothes on the night before school and just sleep in them because I know during the night I was gonna be able to just blow smoke and I could see my breath rising right in front of me inside the house just because that's how cold it was. I didn't want to get up and change my clothes in the cold winter air. So we just got dressed that night, got up in the morning, brushed our clothes off, and just went straight to school. And I remember, even just standing in the cheese line, getting free cheese, having to go to the church, get a box of clothes for Christmas time and Thanksgiving. So, when you're moving through those kind of situations and you living in, that kind of poverty, it gives you a very different lens, on life and kind of how things look. So as I continue to matriculate, through elementary school and through middle school, I thought everybody lived like that,
Right.
but as I started getting into middle school and early high school, I started wanting to get my own money, just like everybody else. You start looking around, seeing the big cars, rims, people driving with all the bass. You go to the park, cats coming outside, they selling all kind of drugs, showing you all kind of big money, big wads of dollars, and saying, this is what you guys should be doing. I remember my guy asked me, he said, "Man, what you gonna waste time going to school for, man? Look at this." And he just peeled all the $100 bills. And I was like, man, I want that. What am I going to school for? And I really started to question, what's the point? I'm like, if I'm just going to eat, I'm really just going for breakfast and lunch. That's it. I mean, I could care less about learning and the academic piece. I didn't have all the right classes. I wasn't the smartest person. My mom didn't go to school, so I wasn't worried about, college and all that stuff. So I didn't think any of that stuff mattered. For me, I didn't think it mattered for my friends because when people started asking about plans for life after high school and what are you guys going to do, man, we were just lost. Like, well, what are we supposed to do? We don't have the grades. I mean, we haven't taken all the classes. So what happens to people like us who go to the grocery store and steal and put meat down the front of our pants and walk out? Or what happened to the guys like us who go down to the city, to J.C. Penney, throw a couple extra shirts in the bag, and try to walk out? What happens to the guys like us? And so we were struggling trying to figure out, where our place was going to be in society. Because me personally, I didn't know. And when people started, having that conversation, I didn't think I was good enough to do anything. Self-esteem was low. I didn't think I was smart enough. We didn't ever go to college, so we never been on college tours or, seen anything academically related. So, we just wanted to fight, run the streets, and try to get our hands on some dope, so that we could sell it, because that's what we saw everybody do. So,
Right. So
when I started,
what was the pivotal point then that potentially in your life or was it a person or pivotal point that made a shift for you? So you started to see things different, and you knew, because I too, it sounds like we had very, very similar mirrors going on, where there was some strong similarities of things that we've been through. So what was that point that kind of changed it for you?
you know what? One of the things I'll say, for me, I knew who my father was. I had a great dad. He didn't live in South Carolina. He lived in California, and he called for me for a couple of summers. So when I was able to leave South Carolina and go to Los Angeles, I flew on a plane for the first time. I got in a different environment for the first time. I saw, a man go to work and just have a kind of regular everyday life. My dad had a car. He had an apartment. And overall, he was a good guy. So it became a point where I was able to see two different versions of life. Now, for many years, I only saw one version, and that was the version of Sumter, people wild, doing things irate, stealing. Robbing people. I used to go in my next door neighbor house and steal from him because he drove the snack truck. So he always had honey buns laying around, candy bars laying around, money. So we go over there, man, go in the back door, take $1 bills, slide all the change off the dresser, grab a couple honey buns, and be back out the back door. So when I saw my dad being kind of this stand-up guy, then I started thinking, well, man, I wonder if I could, actually get like a regular job and do some of the things that normal adults do. But before I kind of ventured down that road, I had to still get my hands on that crack cocaine, because everything that I saw that went along with that, I still felt like, man, that's a great life, because I saw the money and I saw what it would do, what it was doing for people, even in something in the hood. So, I went down, saved up my little money, and got out there and got on the street. And it didn't take me long to figure out that was not going to be the life for me, because I had something to compare it to. So I always say the turning point for me was spending time with my dad, because if I never saw that life and never saw him, kind of being a stand-up man with a job, and I'd only seen what I saw growing up with all the guys around me, fighting, selling dope, even the house we lived in burned down, and things like that, then I wouldn't have anything to compare it to. So once I had a barometer, I was smart enough to figure out, okay, you going about this, the wrong way. You really gonna end up, either dead or in jail, for real.
See, and I think the resource and the access to opportunities. So even for me, I know that when I was home, and I grew up in the projects in Rochester here, I grew up in some of the worst areas. I saw my experiences were similar to your experience of what we saw, what we went through. I lived next door to the crack house, right?
Yeah.
So, and my stepfather was addicted to crack. So, like, our stuff would also be missing, and it could be next door. And so, when I think about all of that, some of what changed or my ability to want different was my grandparents. See, my grandparents, they lived a little bit of a different life. They lived a more of a middle class life, and they lived in a decent area, but I saw a different structure. And then what they shared or poured into was made me want a little bit different. And I guess what is hard for me is that it was a blessing, but it also is, there's some of our kids don't have those opportunities or resources to see something different. And so I was hungry for something different. Like I just knew from an early age because of them that I wanted to live more like them and exceed that lifestyle than I did want to live how I was living. But seeing it, and it struck a
Mhm.
nerve when you just said that because it was completely that I was able to see that. And I know a lot of kids don't have that or have that resource. And it's like, how do we work towards changing that or being the resource that they need and be like your dad, like my grandparents, and help them be that pivotal point. Because one of the things that I'm worried about is that so many all of our kids, but specifically our black males, are stuck. And so why do you think they're so stuck?
You know what? And a part of it really is two parts to that, in my personal opinion. The first part is the whole father situation. A lot of us are growing up single parent homes, without dad. Dad is a major influence, man. And we don't have to go through all the research has already been done, right? The second piece of that to me is exposure, because I can say that for a fact. I grew up, in a house. I had siblings. I had other people around me. I had my own friends, who were connected to me, in different capacities. And when I look at all the common threads of people who were quote unquote found some sort of success, and not necessarily, money and homes, but graduated from high school, went on to live, a good life, was able to sustain themselves, take care of themselves, whether it's plant workers, but I mean, they have regular routine jobs and just able to live a good quality of life. And when I look at what that was, those two things were always present. It was a father figure of some sort, and it was exposure. And that's why, I'm real big on getting out of your environment, getting out of the spot that you're, where you currently are, seeing different things, doing different things, because when you are exposed to those different things, it opens your mind. Just like reading a book, which is the other thing that I'm passionate about. Reading, we got to read more. We got to get these students, reading more. We got to get these kids more engaged, and we got to get them exposed, especially this COVID generation that was not exposed for so long because they were at home, they were inside, they were doing everything, virtual via computer. We have to get back to, those regular field trips, getting kids out, letting them see stuff, touch it, taste it, because everybody learned differently. And even though my father, I was able to kind of to watch him, and seeing him is what made a difference. It was never what he said. It was never, what he told me over the phone. It was never, what he said verbally, but seeing him in his environment, moving to his own beat and kind of doing his own thing, I was exposed to something different. And the fact that I was on the West Coast. So now I'm all the way in California versus South Carolina. I'm in a whole different land, learning about gang banging and Sherm and how they do stuff, on their coast. Even that still was a lesson, in life. And I was like, man, I definitely don't want any of this. This is so different, from what we do at home. I mean, these guys, when they jump somebody, it's like 20 people, it just was very different. So, the things that you learn, the things that you expose to, just, it makes a huge difference. And I think even going into my senior year of high school, a lot of people said what to do, and a lot of people told you what to do. But I had one person that came into my life that showed me what to do.
Right.
And that's what makes a difference, for our young people as well. It's a lot different when you tell somebody something and versus showing. And that was another pivotal moment really in my life, because I'm in the 12th grade. This guy walks into my classroom, Anthony Graham. I never seen him before, never talked to him before. I didn't know his name, didn't know where he was from. I did not have any type of mentors, really, that was working with me on a regular basis, like officially. But I was around some good men from time to time, but I didn't really have, an official mentor. This guy walks in, and for whatever reason, he came in to give my teacher a package. And as he walked out, he stopped dead in his tracks, and he turned and he looked at me and he said, "You, come here." And I'm looking around the whole class like, well, I
Who,
know
me?
you're talking to me because I don't even know. I don't even, like we said, I don't even know Buddy. I know Buddy ain't talking to me for what? And he said, no, you. And I was like, well, clearly these guys talking to me. So I get up, I go over to him, and he asked me, he said, what's your name? I tell him, what's your mama name? I tell him, where you from? I'm from here. And then he asked me that question. What are you going to do when you graduate from high school? And I was like, man, I don't know. I said, man, I ain't going to college. Because I could tell he was gearing up to say that, right? And I was like, I ain't going to college, man. I said, I already know what you're getting ready to say. He kind of leaned back, crossed his arms, He said, okay. He said, you know what? That's cool. I get it. He said, well, I'll tell you what. I got a trip taking place in a couple of weeks, and I would love for you to come and be on it. He said, we're going to leave in the morning. It's going to be a day out of school, and we're going to come back. That's all he said. We're going to leave in the morning. It's going to be a day out of school, and we're going to come back. And I asked him 2 questions. I said, is there going to be food? And he said, yes. And I said, is there going to be girls? And he said, yes. And I said, you know what? I'll be there. Now, I didn't ask him, where we going? What are we going to do?
Did y'all get a permission slip signed?
Man, we all going to be there. Hey, food and girls, a day out of school, I don't care where we going. He could took us to the zoo. We could have been picking up trash, litter, clean up. It didn't matter. Food, girls, out of school. I'm like, all these 3 things line up for my life perfectly, right? So we get up there to the school. He got a big, huge, extra long bus, and he packed about 25 boys on it. We start driving, and this bus ends up taking us. We doze off to sleep. We wake up, and we see the big sign that says South Carolina State University. Everybody on the bus fell out. Oh, man. Oh, bro. Man, we ain't going to no college, man. It's crazy, man. We told you.
Right.
The bus turns on the campus, and I'll never forget, I'm sitting on that left-hand side of the bus, and I put both my hands to the window, and I look out, and I see all these people that look like me. And immediately I knew, I said, I'm coming here. That's it. It took me being on a college campus for about 2 minutes. I hadn't talked to nobody. I hadn't seen the whole school, nothing. All I knew was these guys look just like me. And if they're here and they look like they're doing some positive stuff, they're not selling dope, they're not fighting, they're not wilding out. They look good. I see myself in these people. I was like, man, this is it. Because I don't have no other plan. I'm going to stay home and sleep in the bed. My mama sleep on the floor some days, stay out all times of night, stealing out of grocery store. I'm like, this looks like a better alternative, even though I didn't really know what the opportunity was. It felt like it was going to be right. And again, when I talk about getting yourself out of one environment, putting yourself into another environment, I talk about having exposure and being exposed to different things, and not just being told, but being shown what to do. Big difference, big difference.
Now, I'm thinking about just growing up in the environment that you grew up in. What type of hurt or trauma did it cause for you? And how did that get in your way from reaching the milestones that you knew that you one day could reach? How did that manifest itself?
Yeah, it's it was a lot of trauma, a lot of trauma. For me, more so was the trust, right? Like trust, being able to really trust adults, trust that they're gonna do what they say they're gonna do. Because even as a child, man, I had been let down so many times, sitting on the edge of the bed, waiting on the cavalry. Oh, I'm gonna come bring you a pizza. Nobody show up. Oh, we're gonna get you out of here. We're gonna get you a bed. Like simple things. When you're young like that, and somebody gives you their word and then they break it or they don't do it, man, it is so demoralizing, because you're already looking to these people as, your superheroes, because, these adults, this is all you have, and I grew up in a house with, my own grandmother, who I honestly looked at me and told me, she said, you ain't never going to be shit. Not ever. That's it. And to look up as a child and hear those words come from somebody that's supposed to love, respect, cherish, and honor you. You know, a person that you have given this esteemed title to, you know, grandparent or grandmother, auntie, you know, whomever, to hear those derogatory things come out. Oh, you too black, you know, you too dark, you short, you know, you're not gonna be tall, you're not gonna amount to anything, you know, you're not gonna be able to make this. And I don't know why you hang around these people and you think because you talk white, you know, you think you somebody. So, you know, you internalize all of those things. And I can remember being on a trajectory, but still thinking, man, somebody's gonna show up and tell me that I ain't gonna make it. Somebody's gonna walk in here and tell me I can't come here. Somebody's gonna show up and tell me that I can't do it. And then I started thinking, well, maybe I really can't do it. Yeah, it does look good. And yeah, they do, you know, have all this stuff laid out, but what if I really can't succeed here? What if I'm really not smart enough? You know, what if I do the application and I don't get in? Or what happens if I get in and then I fail out and I got to come back home? Cats already told me. They was like, yeah, we see you when you come back. You know, we going to be right here at the corner store. So, you know, all of those things they do, they just weigh on you, you know, and they weigh you down while you trying to fight through, you know, the rubble and just try to become somebody and build yourself up. And then ultimately that's what I ended up doing. I just got to continue to tell myself, you know, that you got it, you're gonna make it, you know, you can get in here. It's gonna be tough because I didn't have all the grades, right? I didn't have the GPA, I didn't have all the classes, I didn't have nothing. So at that point, it was just a Hail Mary. I didn't know if the school was gonna accept me. I didn't know if I got in, if I was gonna be able to do the work. I mean, I was terrified, but and I still to this day really don't know how we got into the college and got accepted. But that's what I say about our HBCUs, you know, back in the days. And, you know, even now, those schools will give our young people an opportunity, right? And, you know, this was coming from somebody, English student in high school, you know, getting in the fights, you know, going through the neighborhood, getting into trouble with people. And to go there and have an academic career that I could hold my head up about. To say that I made A's for semesters, you know, walked out with a stole, you know, around my neck. Man, I never made grades like that in high school. I didn't know I was capable of making a grade like that in high school. Even down to, you know, I had several internship opportunities. I left South Carolina State and I went to Dallas, Texas, and I did a co-op for a whole year where they paid for me to live in an apartment, gave me a check stipend, a cell phone, a laptop. I mean, I was able to, you know, save money, come back to school, pay my own bills, get an apartment, give my mom some money. So just being in that environment, it changed my life so dramatically until it was unbelievable, you know, and that's why I challenge students today, you know, when I hear people and even adults, so college not for everybody, and there's no guarantees you get a job. And I'm like, I challenge that because if you go to a hair school, you know, or cosmetology, are you going to study? Yes. Are you going to get a certificate of some sort? Yes. Well, congratulations. You just went to college. Okay. College is about educating yourself
Right.
after high school. Doesn't matter whether it's 2 years, 4 years, hair school, nail school, you go get HVAC, 8-week dental assistant program. All of that is college. All of it. It's all about gaining additional knowledge, pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, and being able to walk, you know, into some sort of career path that's going to be lucrative enough for you to be able to take care of yourself on your own without adult help or interference. So
Right.
congratulations, right?
And through that hurt and trauma, you know, and some of the things that you experienced as a black man, what were you taught about your emotions and being vulnerable?
Don't do it ever. Don't do it. Don't hold it all in. Don't cry. Don't tell anybody anything. You know, if something goes on, just work
Why?
real hard,
Why?
try to figure it out.
You-
You know, I don't know. You know, I think that as you grow up, you know, even down to girlfriends, you know, and I talk about the girlfriend trauma. Sometimes I talk about this with my guys. How many times did your uncle say, "How many girlfriends you got, boy? You a player, ain't you?" You know, I mean, all these different things that, they instill and throw on us early. You
It
ain't
was
see.
always about quantity and not quality,
Yes.
and that's certain. But you know what? That quantity over quality has to do also with the slave mentality,
Yeah.
because the black man was taken out of the household, and after we were taken out of the household and emasculated, not allowed to be with your family. The only time you were allowed to be around was when you could procreate, and even though might have been married to somebody, you were forced to have sexual experiences with other women. So it's, and epigenetic trauma is real. It's been deeply ingrained that is part of what should make up a black man based on that slave mindset. And so now it's somewhat of working towards reversing some of that, and working towards and seeing and creating the family structure and putting it back together and building that, instead of uh, I didn't understand this until I got older, right? Because I
Yeah.
too thought that was exactly the way to live, and I still, it's one of those personal vices that I still struggle with, that I still work to fight against, because that's been my outlet for dealing with my emotions and my feelings is women. And so now I try to deal with it differently, and I try to work towards improving, because if you know better, you do better. But it's always as one of those struggles that we go through. So what did you need to heal? So what helped you heal from some of the things that you went through?
One of the things that really helped me was being around people who were forward thinking and just moving in the right direction, right? Because once it seems like that college environment and kind of being at a 4 year, university, being at an HBCU, everyone is coming into the situation with one common goal, and that's to finish, graduate, and move on to a job, right? So we're all kind of moving in the same direction, and everybody's thinking the same thing, and everybody's kind of doing the same thing. Everybody's interning, everybody's speaking positively, everybody's just trying to get to the same place. So when you're around so many people, so many like-minded individuals, where everybody's moving in one direction, and that's what causes a positive force, right? When multiple beings and multiple forces kind of all band together and move in the same direction, it's like water. Water that's moving, swirling all around, is not as impactful as water all rushing together downstream. And that's kind of what it felt like. We all were moving in that same direction. And when you get caught up in a situation like that, you can almost do no wrong, because everybody's gonna pull you along. I can remember being in the room, after a long weekend, and my roommate saying, "Hey man, you ain't going to class?" Just tapping my legs like, "Yo, get up." And here I am thinking it's Monday morning, I'm gonna sleep in, I'm gonna skip this class, I had a long night. But it was like, nah, that's not why we here. And we were each other's crutches, and that's really where I kind of developed that mindset, that no matter what, you just got to keep going forward. And I had seen a lot of things, even through the college years, but through the high school years as well. So perseverance, that's just another one of those things that it's just inbred, right? Sometimes you pick up on some of these different characteristics and some of these different qualities. When you got to go to the church with a note from your mom that says, "Can we please have some food?" when you and you have to walk in the hot sun and deliver that, and then get the change and walk home and give it over to your mom so she can take that and go buy some food, you learn a different level of perseverance, right? You go to school, now I'm in college, oh, I might have got a C minus or a D in the class. My world is not shattering, the earth is not breaking down, because I've been through so many different things. I've already been through so many different fires, until I'm like, if this is the worst thing we got to worry about, all we got to do is go hit the books, study a little bit harder, so the next time, we can come out on top. So, perseverance, you really talk about gutter to greatness. I mean, perseverance really, that's really been my calling card, because no matter what, I mean, you gotta persevere.
So what was that one thing that you had to stop doing so you could stop limiting your potential?
One thing I really had to stop doing was just being so worried about, what people thought. I mean, I would be worried to death about failure. I'll be worried to death about having to go home. But I think what that did was it gave me that extra edge and it pushed me because it's almost like you hear people say, "Well, I don't have no plan B. I'm just gonna have a plan A and that's it. It's got to work." My only plan A was getting out of that school, with a degree and some type of solid employment because I didn't have anything to go back to. I knew other kids who was like, "Oh, my mom told me I could come back home, and I'm gonna go back home and stay and just stay at the house for 6 months. So I'm gonna go home and do a year working in the city and save my money." There was no going home for me. So at that point in that moment, that's when I kind of knew, this is it. Like I got to get in here. I'm gonna have to do everything I can, everything in my power, to win and be successful and move forward. And so, and that's what we did.
I got some phrases that I'm gonna put up on the screen, and so when you see the phrases, I want you to tell me what it means to you. It's almost like a rapid response. What's your first reaction? What do you say, and how does that apply to what you're doing in a rapid response kind of form? So about like 7 or 8 phrases. So we'll start with you are creating your own reality.
Oh, that's yes, that's a fact. Creating you have to create your own reality, and what you do with your time, the people that you hang around, the things that you do for fun, the things that you do on the side, all of those things, whether you know it or not, are building the reality of the world that you're going to be in, and that's dictated and determined by you. And we don't always look at it from that perspective, especially young people. We just think, oh, I'm just kind of moseying along and think whatever's going to happen is going to happen. No, you're building the reality right now, based on the things that you do and say.
I am so happy and grateful.
Man, listen, I am happy and extremely grateful because this is not what I saw for my life. Well, actually, it is. I always thought that I was going to be the CEO of a corporation or at least be a high level director or VP. I never thought that I would be the CEO of my own company and be generating my own income. So yeah, I'm very grateful. Very. This has been a great run. We get to impact students' lives, all over the world with our books and our workbooks and our online courses. So yeah, grateful is man. I'm grateful beyond measure.
Write out your goals and how to obtain it.
All right, if number one, guys, if you want to reach a goal, and you want to talk about how to obtain it, the first thing you have to do is you have to recognize what your gifts are, right? And that's what I always talk about because once you recognize what your gift is, and once you recognize what you are good at, then you can start to formulate a goal, and then you can start to move towards that goal. But until you really tap in to yourself and kind of tap into that inner being and really understand, man, I'm good at speaking. I'm good at being a public speaker. I'm good at motivating others. I'm good at fixing cars. I'm good at building things. You're not going to be able to tap in, to your truest potential and be able to take that and move forward. So recognize what your gift is, take that gift, then you can build goals around the gift, as you continue to move forward and matriculate, write it down. You can even break it down into smaller goals. You can even do SMART goals. If anybody knows what SMART goals are, if you don't, go out, look it up, SMART goal, SMART, and you implement those into your daily practices. But the first thing where it starts with recognizing your gift.
Turn your setbacks to your setups.
Man, listen, if everybody in here, everybody that's listening to this right now, I know for a fact you've had a setback, whether you got laid off on a job, whether you're a student, you got a bad grade, everything is a learning experience. You can take those things and learn from it. The goal is you have to look at it and pull out the positive. Okay. Anybody can look at the negative. Oh, I got laid off from my job. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm not got no money. Or you can look at it as, hey, I got laid off from my job. So now I'm gonna look for my next opportunity. It's gonna be a bigger, better opportunity. It's gonna put me in a better situation, and I'm gonna be overall gonna be better off. So always look at the positive when you're dealing with setbacks. And that's how you set yourself up for future success.
My memory is a replay of your past. Your imagination is a pre-play of your future.
You know, the past is a tricky thing to deal with, man. It's tricky, but again, similar to what I said earlier, look at your past, just be positive and learn from it. Pull out the positive pieces and just try to learn from what you did, learn from your mistakes, and try to use them going forward.
Your company's name is Velocity, and I heard you tell a story that you saw the velocity of a ball,
Yeah.
and that it actually is where you came and got the name from. How does that connect to what you're doing?
Yeah. So even if you look at our logo, it's all about having velocity and momentum. Is all about upward mobility, upward trajectory. We don't ever want to go backwards, right? We always want to move forward. We always want to, be positive, stay positive. So when you're talking about positivity and you're talking about upward mobility and trajectory, most of those things symbolize going up, and going up is always a picture of success. It's a picture of goodness. It's a picture of great things to come. So when I was thinking about the company and how to build it and kind of how to put everything together, I just thought about velocity, because you always want upward mobility and upward trajectory and success. And you always want to be moving forward. If you're not moving forward, then you're just standing still.
What are some of the key objectives that you guys are working on, and what do you got coming next? What are you doing as far as just out there so people understand what Marlo and Velocity is really about, and what do you got going on?
Yeah. So currently, what we do is we partner with middle schools and high schools, and we allow those schools to purchase programming from us. Which our premium online course is a course, and it's called Preparing for Life After High School, and it can be used at any level from sixth grade all the way to 12th grade. So currently, we work with probably over 30 schools up until this point. We've probably seen a little bit over 1,200 students in our online platform. We currently have about 250 students that are taking classes with us right now. And those students are learning they're learning topics. It's 21 modules that they're going through. And those modules contain information about college, understanding what college is about. We're talking about overcoming your insecurities. We're talking about decision making. We're talking about time management. So it's a good class about hard skills and soft skills. A hard skill is something like study hard, get a 3.0. But a soft skill might be, who do you turn to when you're in a negative situation and you're trying to get to a positive situation. So we take the students on a story about a young guy who's trying to figure out what to do with his life after high school. And he goes through all of these different things. And in the end, he finds success at the university level. So inside the online course, you have questions, quizzes, and video, as well as audio files where the students can click the audio, they can listen to the information, or they can read the information themselves. But it's a 21 module course. It's all about preparing yourself for life after high school, but we want to start at an earlier stage, 8th grade, 7th grade, 6th grade, 9th grade, so that these students can really have time to work through their high school career, implement some of the strategies that we're outlining in the program. And then by the time they're seniors and they're ready to be successful, they have a tangible physical action plan in their hand of what they're going to do after they graduate from high school. And that could be, again, 2 years, 4 years, whether it's certification or trade. We're going to equip them with the actual action plan so that when they leave high school, they know exactly what they're doing. And when they finish it early enough, they get to bring the information, on to the next grade level. And we have some follow-up system and things in plan as well. Some of the things we have coming up in the future right now, we've got a couple of journals that we're getting ready to come out with because we're going to put a little spin on mental health. So we're going to be talking about journaling for students who don't journal. We're going to be talking about journaling for men who don't journal, and journaling for women who don't journal. So just trying to get the family core unit back together and get people more focused and dialed in, on some of those emotions and some of those feelings. So we're working on a parent university as well, where parents are going to be able to go into the online portal and be able to learn things about credit, financial freedom, as well as learn about some of the topics and things that their kids are doing currently in our youth course. So, we're going to open up the universe. We're going to, try to get parents involved so they can be engaged, and, try to get men and women journaling and a couple of other things as well. So we're looking forward to it.
So in about 60 seconds or less, these are your closing statements. Give me 3 things that someone can duplicate to move from their gutter to their greatness.
Hey, man, listen, if you want to go from gutter to greatness, okay, the first thing you got to do is challenge yourself. Don't be afraid to take a risk, but challenge yourself. Stop doing what you think is the regular, everyday thing to do. Challenge yourself and push yourself out of your comfort zone. The second thing you need to do is make good decisions. If you slow down, you can always recognize a good decision versus a bad decision. You can look at it, you can see how it feels, you can see how it sounds. Slow down and focus on making a good decision. And I would say the third thing is have the ability to persevere, because guess what? Something's going to happen. The car going to break down, tire going to blow out, lights going to get turned off, somebody may pass away. No matter what happens in life, have the ability to persevere and continue to move forward no matter what. If you focus on those 3 things, you will be able to go from gutter to greatness.
No, thank you, brother, for being here today as we kind of close out with a mindfulness minute. What resonates with me, what Marlo and Velocity is doing is something called the 12 Ps. And the 12 Ps, it's all about planning, because what I hear this brother saying is his company is helping kids devise a plan for their lives and showing them the importance of it and putting them on the right trajectory as early as possible. Because if, again, with the 12 Ps, is piss poor planning produces piss poor performance produces pain. And so again, for those of you who are like, what do you say? Piss poor planning produces piss poor performance produces pain. And so if you think about it, if you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail. And if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So this brother is trying to take young people on a journey to get there. And so I got to give props to him, respect for coming through today, talking about his gutter to greatness story and for the work that he's doing out there, and keep planning and preparing and start living in your greatness. So this has been another episode from the gutter to greatness. Until next time, see you later when you're greater.
That's it for today's episode. So head on over to iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe to the show. One lucky listener that posts a review on iTunes will win a chance in the grand prize drawing for a $25,000 private epic VIP day with Dr. Miller himself. Be sure to head on over to guttertogreatness.com and pick up a free copy of Dr. Miller's gift. And join us on the next episode.